Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. Oh, have I got a show for you today, because I've got someone who was born and raised and has lived all his life in Texas. He married his college sweetheart. Her name is Linda, and they've been married for over 30 years. My guest graduated with a BS and an M.Ed, yes, from East Texas State University. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are saying something about this, but he did. And he spent 33 years in public education as an agriculture teacher, principal, and retiring as a superintendent. He's been a member of the American Quarter Horse Association. He's been a member of the Texas Theater Adjudicator Organization. And he and his wife have closely worked with Texas students in the university interscholastic league. And so this is pretty exciting stuff, because there's even more to my guest. I kid you not. This is such an honor to have him here because of his experience in education, everything he's giving to his community. And not only this, but he's authored children's books, Western novels, and a theatrical play. After retiring, he ended up taking his talents to the screen, where he's appeared in AMC's The Sun, HBO's The Leftovers, and many others. He's an author, a writer, an actor, and he is a lifetime cowboy, cattle rancher. He does race quarter horses, and he also has a vineyard, which I'm going to talk to him a little bit more about so that he can share with you all of these experiences. You may know him from Showdown on the Brazos, Showdown on the Guadalupe, and I Heard the Quail Whistle. We want to talk to him about all these, so let's bring him on. Bill Foster, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
I am absolutely overjoyed because you are such a contributing member to your community. You have such life value, the skills that we think of and know of when it comes to hometown, especially when it comes to hometown Texas, and all of the things that surround that. And then you've taken these things and applied them so that they can be projected and utilized for children as well as on screen. This is phenomenal, and I really appreciate everything that you have done and the life that you've led.
Thank you very much. That's been an experience for sure.
So let me ask you, many of us who are either in education or in some type of helping field, such as law enforcement, later end up coming into film or screen, somehow into acting or in the film industry. So I'm wondering first how you got into education.
Well, when I graduated from high school, the industry was closing down. There wasn't a whole lot of jobs. And so we knew that it's kind of like being a mechanic. There's always going to be cars. And so with an interest in agriculture and kids, that made me look, say, there's always going to be kids. There's always going to be a need, job security. And so I could, I knew I couldn't make a living on the farm. And so this was a way I could do the agriculture and still make a living at it. So teaching kids, high school kids, vocational agriculture is the way I started.
Mm-hmm. And your grandfather was in this industry.
My grandfather was a farmer, homesteader, sharecropper, you name it. He did it back then. Yep. He actually moved to New Mexico from Texas in a covered wagon, homesteaded out there in the 1920s, and then came back to Texas.
Oh, isn't that interesting? There was a lot going back during that time period of moving and settling and trying to really make it. The times were really tough. And so this is pretty interesting what you have as far as history. And you got to learn a lot from your grandfather to carry on and pass down through not only generationally for yourself, but now you've taken it through the education and passed that information on to your students. And this is pretty incredible. You went on to go into film. How did that happen?
Just by luck. I always share the story. When I was about second grade, the teacher went around the room asking all the students what they wanted to be when they grew up. Well, my idol was John Wayne and Elvis Presley. So I told him, I thought, I'm going to tell him I'm going to be a movie star. Well, the girl next to me said movie star, and everybody laughed at her. So I said, I'm not going to let everybody laugh at me. So I told him something else, I didn't want them laughing at me, but, that was already in my mind back then. And so then I went on, and after I retired in January of 2016, I was just on Facebook and saw the open casting call for The Sun. So I thought, well, why not? I might get, just a little bit of role walking up the street or something. Little did I know I was going to end up with a featured extra and be right there in the mix of a recurring character. And so then that kind of, gets you a little taste of it, and you want more. And then it just seems like every time I applied for a movie as an extra, I was getting in there. And I read an article where it says, if you want to do this, you take everything from the free ones to the paying ones until you kind of establish yourself. And
Yes.
so I took a lot of independence and got my feet wet, and that helped get me into the others along the way. And then I had written a script for somebody, just bits and pieces, and that never went anywhere. So I just pulled it all out and then evolved a whole movie around that, and that turned into Showdown on the Brazos. And
so
then,
I wanted to ask you how that came about, because when I was doing some of my homework and I was learning about, Showdown on the Guadalupe, I was thinking to myself, did this actually become Showdown on the Brazos? And that was what I started thinking, or had there been a connection or a spin-off? That was what my initial thought was.
You're close. When I was working on this Showdown on the Brazos, I couldn't think of a title. So I just said Showdown on the Brazos. I said, I'll change it later, and entered it in the contest. So when it won that contest last year, then the title kind of stuck. And so here we are with two Showdowns. And I know it's kind of confusing, and I probably would have named it something else if I'd known it had taken off so much. But I kept thinking, well, one day I'll rename it. But little did I know it was going to take off like it did. And so that's how it ended up this way.
What a blessing, though. It's really such a good feeling when something that you do, is good, but you don't know how well receptive it's going to be. And then it just explodes, and you're just, overjoyed. I got chills just thinking about that. But it is such a blessing. And so I kind of like that you have both of those things named the way they are, because it says a lot about what's within them.
Yes, it does. And we also could make it a series. So they teased us to Showdown on the rivers as we go across Texas. But, it does tie. I was looking for something to tie it to Texas. And so the Brazos River's always been a part of me, as I used to go fishing on it when I was a little kid. And so it's always been in the back of my mind as a neat place to be. And so, you talk about explode. This thing, it started out, I was just going to do a little iPhone movie with a few actors, and now I've got a video crew with over 200 actors by the time we're going to be through. So
unbelievable.
The script started out like 30 pages, but to enter it in as a full-length feature, it had to be over 51 or 50 pages. So I wrote it to 51 pages a couple years ago and entered that contest. Got honorable mention, but now I look today, it's 110 pages long now. And I'm also a finalist with it in the same contest because it's rewritten. And then our trailer's a finalist, and our poster's leading poster contest right now. So it's hopefully we can get a trifecta.
I love it. This is fantastic. Okay, you're talking about the Brazos River. So what I'd like to know, I'm going to correlate this back to something you're currently doing, and that's your vineyard. Do you use the water from the river?
No, ma'am.
No.
It's a well. We use it from a well.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the reason we ended up buying this place. When we were living over by Brownwood, we drilled a well because we thought we was going to put it in over there, and we made 7 gallons a minute of water, which would have been marginal for a vineyard, but it had too many minerals in it for the grapes, and so we ended up buying this place, which it makes 200 gallons a minute of water out of the well.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
You're saying, I just stand back, 200 gallons a minute?
Oh, yeah, it'll knock you down if you stand in front of it, if you get the full force of it. It's like a fire hose. And so we filled your big water tanks, and then by gravity it drips out to the it goes out to the drip system for the vines. So it doesn't take about, just a little while to fill up the tanks. And then like right now, they're out there soaking right now. So, and that was plan B. My wife, when I came in and said, well, it doesn't look like we'll have a vineyard. She said, well, what's plan B? And I said, I don't know. She said, we'll get one. And so
Yes.
that's how we ended up actually moving closer to the grandkids, buying this property, and starting the vineyard here.
I love the fact that you are doing all of the things that you love, because you're still involved with educating others in addition to your filming and getting back into the agricultural part of your background. So it's kind of right at this moment, you have this very well-rounded, all experience, all encompassing of everything right here in your hands. I mean, this is absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
Everyone, I think, at some point thinks, I wish I could have it all of the things that I've loved to do, all of the things that I've wanted to do, and all the things that would bless me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There you have it. You've got your family. You've got, just all of it.
Yes. Yeah. It's I pinch myself every once in a while, after spending 33 years in education, and, out of 33 years, over 25 of it was in administration, which means you're on call 24/7. And so you don't have a whole lot of time for yourself, and you try to work that time in. And so when I retired, that made it where I could do the vineyard and the movies and everything that I'd always thought about doing, and more writing and things like that. And of course, I started writing before I retired, but I didn't start publishing until after I had retired.
This is a really good point for me to share with the audience, that with hard work, dedication to the things that you're doing, you can fulfill your dreams. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer before you get there, but you can achieve them. And it can be a blessing. There's one thing that Bill, you've had to do to make this dream come true. And I want to share that with the audience when it comes to going from 23 to 3.
Okay.
You're downsizing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that. Yes. You threw me there for saying, yeah, we were in a house, we were in a 2,300 square foot home before we moved over to the vineyard. And now we moved over here, we're down to 300 square foot home. So we went from too big of a house for just two of us to, I think it's the perfect size right now. It's just we would have built it, if we built it, we'd have built it a little bit different, but it was already a building on my dad's property. And when we moved him in the rest home, we picked up that building and brought it to the vineyard, and then I converted the inside of it to a living quarters. And so, it's working great. And my wife likes it because I get to cook outside 90% of the time. So
the easier to clean up too when you're doing it that way. But I want to share with the audience that some of the things to reach your dreams, you do have to make sacrifices for. And yes. So you have to look at our material things, the things that you absolutely need to have to fulfill your dreams. Do you need to maintain a 2,300 square foot house with things that are going to deteriorate within them over time, and that you have to replace often, and so your money is funneled into those things? Or can you utilize the best in minimizing certain things so that you can focus and apply the surplus to things that will help you achieve other dreams? And this is something that you have done, and I really am pointing this out to the audience because you are living proof that you can do all of these things.
Yes. When we got ready to move, we found out we had so much we did not need. We ended up donating. I have a 24-foot stock trailer. We donated 3 trailer loads of, you could call it junk. It was just surplus or whatever, to a good friend that has garage sales for a living, and it helped her out. And so, that's just stuff we didn't need that was just sitting around. And of course, we still have some storage rentals that right now that we have some things, some furniture in it that we didn't want to quite get rid of. But all that other stuff that we really don't need. How many coats do you need? How many pairs of jeans do you need?
Yes.
Things like that.
We tend to hold on to things for a number of reasons. Sometimes they're sentimental, And sometimes they're to fulfill another void. Sometimes they're out of habit. But whatever it is, if we can identify that and help us address those things and then refocus onto something else that's going to actually be more fruitful, positive, and healthy, we can begin to make a shift where it's going to really be blessings after blessings after blessings. So speaking of blessings, little blessings out there, children, let's talk about your children's books for a minute.
Okay.
Tell me about these.
Yeah, I started writing. I wrote a novel and wasn't having much luck getting it published. Of course, it was the first novel. You make all your first novel mistakes as you're an author, And I was an elementary principal at the time, so I thought, why don't I write children's books as a see if I can get those published. And so I started out writing, and it's called the Willie series because the very first one is The Boy Who Wouldn't Comb His Hair. And because my son at the time was in first grade and he did not want to comb his hair, and so we had to keep a burr haircut all the time. And so I wrote this book about it, and the kids loved it and eventually had it published, and the kids at school loved it when I would read it to them. And so then it just turned into a series, and I've had 2 published. I've written, I think, 10 or 11 of the series, but I've been focusing more on my novels. But the teachers would have read-in day every year. Well, they would expect a new book every year. And so I would have to write a new Willie story for them every year. And so that's how I ended up with so many of them. And it's always about the same first grader and how much trouble he can get into. And there's always a little lesson to go along with it. So, maybe it's not an outwardly lesson. Sometimes the children's books get too much like that, too preachy. I just wanted to have the kids enjoy it when they read it and have a good time. And so maybe they learn a little bit from it.
Do you think you could take that over and put it on screen?
Probably could. Yeah, definitely a cartoon version of it, or even a movie for little kids too.
Yes.
So, yeah, it definitely could be done that way. Yeah.
I think that would be really neat. You have a lot of very good experience, a lot of wisdom. You've seen a lot of things throughout your life, and these things you're conveying to children are so important. We oftentimes forget about what is important to children and their perception. And so the delivery of things that we want them to do or the things they need to be compliant for in society, the way we deliver the message is huge.
Yes.
And it can really have a huge effect on their self-esteem and how their future behavior is displayed and can affect other members of society, including, just even when it comes to bullying in the school system.
Yes. And, the books to me are like a movie. It's a time for you to escape from reality and enjoy. And so that's why when the kids read the book, that 30 minutes, they can escape and just get into the story and enjoy a story about a little boy and laugh about him and how much trouble he can get into and things like that. And when it's over, you feel good, hopefully. So
you wrote this based upon your son. Now let's correlate this to a film that you did called The Son. Tell us a little bit about that.
No, The Son, that was an amazing experience. We got to work right along the star Pierce Brosnan, and that was the first day of filming. I was so scared and nervous, thinking, my goodness, here, James Bond, 007, whatever, I'm going to get to go in and work with him. And I told a friend of mine in one-act play teachers, I couldn't tell them who, but I said, I'm fixing to go in. They said, hey, they're just as human as you are. So that really calmed me down and got to go in there and just found out these are just people just like me and you, and they've got a talent for acting, and you work along them, and your job is to make them look as good as possible in the scene. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, we filmed several days on that. I think I was in 5 episodes of the 10, and so got to play a bad guy. In fact, the first day of filming, I told my wife, I said, you're not going to like my character because he's not a nice person. And so you do that, found out, sometimes we can film for 8 hours and then you get on screen, it's 30 seconds or maybe a minute, that was a shock to me.
Yes. You're like, I invested all of this time and this is what I got out of
Exactly.
it.
But I love all the way from costuming to makeup, from the time you get there, from the time you get your costume picked out to getting there I love all of it, the getting ready for it, the staging it. It's all fun to me right now.
I have to agree with you because I've done some things on set and every part of it is fun. And the one thing I can share with the audience is everything is about your perception and what you make of it.
Mm-hmm.
So while you might have some experiences that are long and arduous, if you can take and really sort of filter the things that are going to be beneficial to you, you can make those things good experiences, or at least take something good from those experiences.
Yeah, there was some young people usually on set that they'd be griping about whether it's having to stand in line for makeup or whatever, and I just always try to make a joke out of it because, you enjoy every bit of it. Yeah, sometimes, we film 12, 14, 17 hours or however long it takes, and you just work that long, or the overnight shoots are really tough, not used to staying up all night, but you just keep on rocking through it, and you just try to enjoy every bit of it. And a little bit of twist, there was, I believe, 4 other men with me in our group on the Sun that we were in this gang of bad guys. And I told them when I said, I said, guys, if I ever make a movie, y'all are going to be in it. And so I got all 4 of them into the movie on Showdown with Brazos.
Oh, wonderful.
So we were able to get them all back in there, got us all back together into the movie. So that was a pretty neat deal to get them all back in there.
So what project or projects are you currently devoting your time on?
Showdown on the Brazos is taking all of it right now. I did a Robert Rodriguez movie the other day, just a one-day shoot, and then I filmed a couple of days for some friends that was doing a movie. But 90% of my movie business is Showdown on the Brazos right now. We like about 1 full day and about 3 half days, and then we'll be wrapped as far as filming, and it'll go into post-production.
I love it.
We're filming tomorrow on the actual Brazos River, and it's an actual scene where I'll be in the river most of the morning. So maybe I won't get too shriveled up, but I'll be in the coolest place. Everybody else will be in the sweat, and I'll be out there in the river.
There you go. And all the ladies get some eye candy in the meantime.
There you go. I'll be wearing a red evening suit. So.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. This has been so very, just peaceful and warm. You have got so many things to share and deliver that people can use. And you're doing it in a number of ways that as I've said at the beginning, I appreciate you. And I know that there are so many others that do. And I'm encouraging you through your retirement years to keep on, because this is what I know I'm passionate about as a retired person, and helping others, delivering things, and still being able to be fulfilled at the same time. And I am encouraging you to continue to do the same. And I think
thank you very much.
You're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Let me ask you, where can the audience find all of the information on how to follow you, see Showdown on the Brazos, everything?
Well, we have a trailer on YouTube. Just type in Showdown on the Brazos. I was excited when it first put it on Facebook. We had 300 views, but with combined Facebook and YouTube, it's over 13,000 now. So you can see our trailer there. You can go to my Facebook page, either Bill Foster or Showdown on the Brazos, and we post behind-the-scene pictures all the time. And I know a lot of the big productions don't do that, but I want to show people, what goes on behind the scenes and how much fun we're having. And we actually call it our movie family. In fact, my grandkids are in the movie, and they'll ask my granddaughter, who's 5, she'll say, "What's my movie teacher doing?" Because she was in school scene with a teacher, and she calls it her movie teacher or her movie sister. So you can check in those 3 locations: Bill Foster or Showdown on the Brazos on Facebook, or go to YouTube to see our trailer.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. You definitely want to follow Bill, check out what he's got going on, like his YouTube channel. and check all of the things that's going on behind the scenes on Facebook, and do the same with Rebecca Sounds Reveille. Please share this episode with all of your friends, family, loved ones, everybody you know on social media, and those you don't. Rebecca Sounds Reveille. What a show I have for you, because I have a returning guest who has really helped thousands of people in reference to finances. In fact, it's pretty incredible because he has a very tailored sense of what he does and how he goes about doing it. He is the president of Arbor Financial, and he's also the author of Turning Financial Planning Right Side Up. And this has been a bestseller. It has helped thousands of readers master the inside game of investing, as well as avoiding things, Wall Street and media bias, such as, well, he'll tell you more about that. He's a market watcher, energy analyst. He also occasionally hosts the national TV show, The Income Generation, and much more. He's got a lot to talk about today that I want to share with you, and I'd like to bring him on the show now. With me today, Jeffrey Small. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Rebecca. Thank you for having me back.
Well, I am just absolutely delighted with what you have going on, because you are on the move and you have always been focused on dedicating to your clients a boutique style of financial investing. And so this has gone on to do very well with you in a diverse way of how you offer financial products to your clients. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Well, sure. The financial culture, really from my industry's perspective, and if you work with Charles Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard, or you have a broker down at Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley or Ameriprise, it's all pretty much the same. They're all pretty much offering the same thing. And so, unfortunately, though, investors are unaware of the fact that there are plenty of other options out there other than what everybody offers on a regular basis. And so our firm provides the alternative to what everybody else promotes. And I think that there's a lot of material in the answer to that question. But to put it in perspective, to look what's happening in the markets today, that we've hit this all-time peak. We are a late stage end cycle bull market. The global economy is slowing down. We have a China trade war issue. Our own economy is starting to moderate a tad, not growing as fast as it did last year. These are all warning signs that are really causing what I would call a bond proxy in stocks, meaning people are looking for dividends, they're looking for yields, they're looking for stability. And what our firm does on a boutique basis is we offer the same type of institutional fixed income investing that a multi-million-dollar portfolio would get for Main Street America. And that was really one of the premises of my book. And so by offering that to Main Street America, we offer them a different or alternate form of investing that all the big firms, either discount brokers or non-discount brokers, continually promote, which is a risk-on mentality. And to have risk on today, I think, is going to be painful for the average investor from Main Street.
So let me ask you, when you are talking about the terms in terms of average investor, for those listening, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think that people are only as good with their money as they seek counsel on, and the people that are giving counsel are only as good as they've had the training. The reality is the market is pretty much finite in terms of what it offers, and so investors don't have the ability. And we're talking about the average everyday retiree, the average everyday millennial, the average everyday Generation Xer. It doesn't really matter what your size or status is. If you have savings, that's really Main Street America, and that's what I'm referring to. And so they kind of herd Main Street up as cattle and over-promote risk and tell them that if you want growth, you've always got to have risk. Well, that only works half of the time going back the last 130 years in market history. The other half of the time, what happens is it doesn't work. And so what we do is we teach Main Street America the inside game of that perspective, but we show them ways to master their money to reflect the state of the markets, or what I call modernize their money to reflect the state of the markets. And so where people should be shifting today, Rebecca, and what we do from a boutique standpoint is we are hyper yield, interest rate, dividend focused, but we are not stock market specific. So the average portfolio in our office here will be generating greater than a 5% net yield after fees, but they'll be 85% uncorrelated or disconnected entirely from the stock market, if not more than that as a percentage. And so that is where folks today should be modern with their money. And that's already happening in the markets today. If you watch CNBC, if you watch Fox Business News, you watch Bloomberg, you watch the major financial networks, everybody is searching for a bond proxy in stocks, which is a very risky game because stock prices go up and down and your dividend can be wiped out in a day. So if you're getting a 4% dividend, the dividend can just evaporate in one day like it did today. So most stocks are down 3 to 4% today. So
let me ask you too, for those that are starting to get confused about this and Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, should they focus mostly on talking to a financial advisor to make a game plan as far as stock purchasing, how this affects their retirement? I think that what I always tell everybody is they should go out and find 3 advisors. And I even tell my own prospective or potential customers this. They should find 3 advisors. They should show them their best risk-off approach with their highest yield derived. And so if they can get a 4 or 5% net yield and be risk-off, then that's a good advisor. And that's really what people are looking for. But the problem is, Rebecca, 9 out of 10 advisors that somebody goes and sees are going to say, we've got to put 60% of your money in stocks. We've got to put 40% in bonds. And we're going to use this probability study that says, you're going to have a 50% chance of having some money left in 30 years after you pull out 3% a year. And that's just not where folks should be today. That's incorrect today. Right. And so what do you think about the terms of what people are saying in reference to what they're seeing as far as the, precipice of a recession, or do you think that's coming? Well, I think that, the economy is really conflicted. Interest rates are going to be getting dramatically lower. We're going to zero. The global banks, European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the Bank of China, they're all going, most of them are already at zero. We're going to zero. And that's going to spur lots of consumerism. Now, where is the consumerism? The consumerism today is with the 88 million millennials that we have today. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be the ones that are going to benefit from having such low interest rates. Retirees, they've downsized. They're not really spending. They're not interested in having lots of credit. They don't want mortgages on their house. And so that's really not going to benefit the economy very much. So we're going to see more consumerism. But as the economy starts to slow down and the long-term trend in aging, the long-term demographic pattern there is we see more deflation than we will inflation and less consumerism in the next decade. Okay. That to weigh on the economy. Every year we're going to see that become a heavier weight. Yes. I think 5 pounds of less consumerism due to the aging population and the downsizing that occurs because there aren't enough millennials to make up the gap. And so we have this tug of war that's going to happen, and we're going to create an environment where there's going to be massive fiscal stimulus and massive monetary policy stimulus to try and keep asset prices and stocks and real estate high due to that tug of war that's going to occur because we don't have the demographics that we had in the 80s, that we had in the 90s. So if people think that we're in that bull market and that the party's just going to keep going on, they're going to be really get ready for major heartbreak on their money. And so I think that's what we can expect. And so as you try and figure out all this information, if you're a consumer by watching the news and seeing news pieces, just understand the long-term trend in aging and demographics is to undermine the economy and lower consumerism. And if that happens, then companies aren't making as much money, their net profits shrink, the impetus to invest in the markets and for stocks to rise just is not there because the economy will essentially be flatlining. We won't have growth in the economy next decade. So what do you think the best method to address this is?
The best method is everybody needs to go out and start having babies. So, because that's the problem. We are depopulating. We are not increasing the population fast enough. We've got 180,000 people a month leaving the workforce. And so this year we're going to average about 140 to 150,000 new jobs being created. So we have more people leaving the workforce than we do coming into the workforce. And so we have a sucking sound of a subtraction of total amount of people working, even though today the employment numbers are the best they've ever been since for 50 years. And so we have more people working today than ever before, but because of the aging trends over the next 10 years, that number is going to contract.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And now, how does this correspond to the sort of mallless America now that we're starting to see and the major explosion in online purchases?
Well, I think it's all about simplicity. Nobody wants to go shopping at Christmas and the holidays because it's drudgery dealing with all the crowds.
Yes.
Dealing with, parking and then having to get something to eat, and then you've got to walk so far. It's so much easier to buy things online. But I think the stores of the future will be bricks and clicks. I think long-term bricks and clicks, like Walmart, will usurp or beat Amazon at some point. Right now, Amazon is just kind of the mecca for online retailing. If you want something the cheapest, you go to Amazon. I'll give you an example. My book on Amazon is $13.95. If I buy it at Barnes & Noble off the shelf, it's $21.95. Right. So to pay that extra $7 or $8, that makes no sense. And so for people that want to shop the cheapest, they're going to continue to shop online. But, a lot of these specialty retailers that are very high dollar, we're watching them contract. The revenues aren't increasing. They're closing down stores. And even stores like the dollar store are having problems. The only side of the retail that I really think will always be strong is in the Lowe's sector, the Home Depot sector. Amazon and online retailing really have hit that side of the retailing equation because people want it's a tangible purchase. They want a tool. They're looking for something specific. They want lawn and garden. They've got to see it and touch it. They want to remodel. They want carpet. They want tile. They want new cabinets. They want new appliances. I don't see Amazon penetrating that space really ever. But I think bricks and clicks long-term, Rebecca, are the way to go.
That's pretty interesting. So if somebody wanted to now consider about putting investments in stocks, a brick and click would be the way to go.
It really would. If you were going to be an investor, like a Warren Buffett type that says, look, I want to know where this company's going to be in 5 years and I think they're going to be exploding, I think Walmart is a phenomenal hold for 5 years just to see the run that they're going to give Amazon, because if their internet business keeps growing at, let's say, a 25 to 35% rate quarter over quarter, they are going to become a real player. Their stock is going to explode similar to Amazon's.
Okay, so let me ask you too, if there is somebody who says, I would really like to get involved with the stock market and I just don't have a lot of extra funds every month to invest in this, can I look at penny stocks and think that I can eventually make some money off of this? Is this something that is feasible, or do you really need to look at something that is already established and going to end up having longevity because it's an established company?
Yeah, most of the penny stocks don't have longevity. If you're lucky enough to get a penny stock that graduates, let's say from the penny stock exchange up to the big boards, that's kind of miraculous, to say the least. And so that generally doesn't happen. Usually the companies that have really good ideas, good business models, projection of incredible rapid growth are going to be companies that already go public. And we see those companies like Uber and Lyft and, what's the meat company? It escapes me now. You know who the meat companies I'm talking about with the vegetarian meat?
No.
There's a Beyond Meat. It's called Beyond Meat. They've all exploded. It's called Beyond Meat. And so they offer their meatless hamburger at, Burger King and a few other places, but it's all over the grocery store shelves. And I've had it. It tastes just like meat, but it's plant-based. It's pea protein.
Okay.
But these types of concepts are what I'm talking about will never show up on the penny stock exchange. So the penny stock exchange is not going to make anybody rich or help their retirement.
This is all really good information to know. So if somebody really is starting to think about their finances, what they want to do in the future, how they want to really sort of strategically place themselves in comparison to where they're at now, they can do a couple of things. One, they can get a copy of your book. And another thing is they can get in contact with you to set up an appointment. And you work, I mean, I know that you're certified senior advisor through the Society of Senior Certified Senior Advisors out of Florida. You guys are also with the Florida Department of Financial Services, and you're completely certified. You're based out of Florida. So if somebody in California wants to utilize your services, can they contact you via Skype or the telephone? How do you work?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, what your viewership needs to know is that I'm a fiduciary, and that's really what matters. Fiduciaries are registered investment advisors, and we have a national presence. We can work in every state in the country. We have states, and we have clients in almost every state in the country. And so I think it's important that if you like the things that we're talking about and they strike a chord with you, you call us direct. You call us direct at 321-795-4799. Or you go to our website at arbor-financial.com, and you contact us by email that way and subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, if you go to the website, you're going to see all of my media appearances, and I've spoken on every major large financial network there is, including Rebecca's, and she's grown a lot. So, we'd like to come back at some point and talk to you guys again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of the information. This is a lot to think about, especially if someone hasn't thought about these things before, because we are definitely taking a shift in the way things have gone for a long period of time. And while there has been sort of a slow change, it's starting to make a big impact. And so we're going to be seeing a lot more things. And I appreciate you being here and sharing that with the audience today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Rebecca. You take care.
And I want to thank you for all tuning in to another episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. We ask that you share this show with your friends, your family, your loved ones, everybody you know on social media, and those you don't.